Hey guys, it's Sasha. The number of jobs in the UK is now falling at the fastest rate since 2020, back when everybody was losing their job because of lockdowns. Excluding COVID, jobs are now being lost at the fastest rate since the 2008 financial crash. Who knew that a big increase in tax on jobs would result in the number of jobs falling, right? The 70,000 jobs lost in March is by far the largest single monthly drop in the last 10 years, excluding the first few months of COVID, or as the ONS puts it, the number of payrolled employees broadly stayed the same compared with March 2024 at 30.3 million, a small fall of 0.2% or 70,000 employees. And in addition to the obvious gaslighting, I wanted to show you three big issues in the data. First, the fact that we're beginning to see job losses before the start of April, that is a problem because in April taxes are going up, so jobs being lost in the run-up is bad news. It's bad for the economy. Second, the real rate at which jobs are being lost is actually much higher. I will show you the data. The 70,000 jobs lost is already more than twice the previous highest in this data set, excluding that period in 2020, but the real job losses that are happening in the private sector are significantly worse. Third, not only are people losing their jobs, but the number of job vacancies is crashing to the floor at the same time. So finding a new job when you lose your job is getting a lot harder. People are staying unemployed for longer. This creates a self-fulfilling downward spiral. People lose their jobs, they can't find a new job, and that leads to the total number of people out of a job going up even faster. So let's go through the numbers so that we can understand what is happening in more detail. From the beginning of April, two things are hitting businesses at the same time. The first is the employer's national insurance going up, and then there's the minimum wage going up. The minimum wage is going up by 7%, and if you're employing young people, it's going up way more. This bit is really important. I will show you why it's important in a minute. 18 to 20-year-olds got a 16% increase in minimum wage, which is now sitting at £10 an hour. And under 18s got an 18% increase, up to £7.55. So if you're a business that employs a lot of young people, you are going to really feel this. If your business is not the sort of business where the margins are thick, where you're printing a load of money, where you are reliant on these young people doing the work for less money, you are going to feel the pinch. And you know who employs a whole load of young people? Restaurants, bars, pubs, hotels, the leisure industry. The cost of hiring young people to work in the bar has just gone up 16%. And then on top of that, the employer's national insurance is going up from 13.8 to 15%. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's actually very substantial. The level at which it's due is being reduced from 9,000, has been reduced from 9,000 to £5,000. So if you are a young person who works a 35-hour week in the hospitality industry, for example, the minimum wage is now £10 for 18 to 20-year-olds. So that's an annual salary of £18,200. That salary has just gone up 16% for the employer. But then the employer's national insurance has also gone up. And it's a double whammy because that employer's national insurance is now due on that higher salary that has just gone up by 16%. And it all multiplies through. If you work it out, the employer's national insurance on that minimum wage person was £918 for the whole year last month. From April, it becomes £1,980. It has more than doubled. This is critical because I don't think the UK government actually understands this point because it involves numbers and doing maths and stuff. But the amount that the businesses are paying in employers' national insurance on a typical minimum wage job has more than doubled this month. It's not a small increase, and I just went and worked it out. So the cost of hiring an 18 to 20-year-old on that 35-hour minimum wage job has gone up by 22% this month, almost a quarter. So those pubs, those restaurants, those hotels, those whatever, who predominantly hire these people, their wage bill has just gone up by 22% for those young people. And those same pubs and restaurants just had their business rates go up as well at the same time. Back when lockdowns happened, the hospitality industry first got to pay no business rates at all because the UK government, in their infinite wisdom at the time, decided that other kinds of businesses are all okay to fend for themselves and die. You know, not pubs and restaurants, but everyone else was not allowed to go to the office, was not allowed to go and do their work, but they still had to pay full business rates. It doesn't matter, all those people just got screwed, but restaurants and hotels got to pay nothing for a bit. Then that business rates relief was reduced from 100% to 75%. So businesses started having to pay a quarter of what they had to pay. And until now, they continued having to pay just 1/4 of what normal businesses pay in their business rates. And now that discount has just gone down from 75% to 40%, which, in a way is fair enough because it has been quite a while since the pandemic and other types of businesses did not get any discount at all. But the issue we are going to see is that this business rates increase will be happening at the same time that the cost of hiring people by those businesses is also skyrocketing. And that is going to be very, very painful for pubs and for other leisure businesses all over the country. Just before the budget was announced in October, there were 94,000 job vacancies in the accommodation and food services activities. Now that number is down to 84,000 in the data up to March, and this is before all of these costs have actually started hitting from April. First pay runs with the new higher wages will be happening in the next 2 weeks. Then the new higher business rates are already happening. They started from the 1st of April. And next month, the PAYE receipts have to be paid to HMRC for April. That will be the first time that employers have to pay those higher national insurance payments. You just wait and see the headlines when these payments start actually coming out of the bank accounts and the impact it's going to have on those businesses. It will be brutal. By the way, I will be sending out my next newsletter soon. So if you want to read that, make sure you go and sign up to my newsletter. It's completely free. Just go to my website, sashayanshin.com, and just type in your email, link below, and I will send you my hot takes, my analysis, my unfiltered thoughts, not having to pander to any algorithms as and when I have them. I promise I won't spam you. And if you don't like the newsletter, you can unsubscribe at any time. So now, let me show you the employment data a bit more closely, because I went and read through the media coverage yesterday, and most reports didn't seem to go past the first paragraph. The first paragraph being the one that says that there was a very small drop of 70,000 payroll jobs. And the second paragraph says this change was the highest in health and social work sector, a rise of 70,000 employees, and lowest in the accommodation and food service activities sector, a fall of 92,000 employees. This is absolutely critical. Look carefully at what it's saying. In March, the accommodation and food service sector lost 92,000 jobs in just 1 month. I know these numbers are subject to change, but that is huge. That's just restaurants, pubs, and hotels. Almost 100,000 jobs lost. And you can see why I was talking about the hospitality industry earlier. It is absolutely getting smashed to smithereens. But the first part of that paragraph is also important. Look, the health and social work sector added 70,000 jobs. And here is the detailed table. I'm sorry for how small this text is, but at the bottom I am showing the month-to-month change in March, and I color-coded it. You can see that the accommodation and food service activities is deep red, minus 0.8%. So in 1 month, that industry lost almost 1% of all of the staff in that industry. And this is before April is even hit. That's carnage. But then look at the numbers a bit more closely. See how the stuff on the left is a bit more like red and shades of orange, and the stuff on the right is a bit more green. Well, the stuff on the left is private businesses. See, these are all negative, most of them sitting at minus 0.4% in March. And then the stuff on the right is mostly around 0 or even positive. Well, these are the government sectors, things like education, the NHS, public administration, and so on. So what's happening is that the businesses are beginning to fire people a lot more than average because it is costing so much more to employ those people. And those businesses are not doing as well. But the UK government, all of the branches of the government are not firing people. In fact, some of them are even net hiring. So the overall numbers are not looking as bad because the government numbers dilute what's happening to the real economy. And the numbers of job postings, those numbers are also collapsing for the same reason. There are now 781,000 job vacancies in the UK, which is the lowest in 7 years if you exclude the obvious dip that happened during lockdowns. It is now significantly lower than it was in 2018 and 2019, despite the population of the UK growing during this time. Companies are firing people and they are choosing not to hire new members of staff. That is extremely bad news for the economy. When big companies do mass layoffs, they first have to submit a reform called the HR1 to the redundancy payment service, which is part of the UK government. Not in all circumstances in some of the big planned layoffs. And they publish this data. Here it is. You can see that in the last few months, the number of expected redundancies has gone up from being 20,000-ish to 29,000 in March. That's a very sudden 50% increase in companies planning to do redundancies. And the majority of people losing their jobs are not even going to be included in this data because most redundancies are not planned in advance and many of them come from smaller companies. And it's mighty odd when we have all of this data, but then at the same time, the GDP report comes out and is telling you that the UK economy is booming. It's growing so fast over the last few months. According to the latest GDP data, GDP went up 0.5% in February, which means GDP is now up 1% since October. According to this data, every single sector of the UK economy is growing fast at the moment. Even the accommodation and food services bit grew 0.04% in the latest month. The same sector that is currently laying off staff at the fastest rate in recent years. This doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. According to the ONS, the median wage in the UK is £670 a week, which is almost £35,000 a year. This is before bonuses and perks. The minimum wage in the UK is now £12.21. If somebody works 40 hours a week, for example, they would make £25,400 on just the minimum wage. So the median wage, the average wage in the UK, the wage that 50% of people earn that or less than, is now £35,000 and the minimum wage is £25,000. This is a staggeringly small difference. Historically, it is absolutely unprecedented. It's just a 40% gap from the absolute minimum to the average. The majority of people living in the UK have almost the same income, like everybody. Over the last few years, the minimum wage has been pushed up at insane levels. This year, it went up 7% or whatever. A few years in the recent past, it's been going up at 10% rates or more. So what's happened is that the wage spectrum has been compressed. The bottom wages have been going up very, very fast, but the average wages have not really gone anywhere. And we now have a weird situation where the average wage is only 40% more than the absolute bare minimum. And this is actually a problem. I know a lot of people don't really recognize this as being a problem. People say, look, people on low wages need more money. And on the one hand, it does mean that people on lower pay do get a higher salary. But then the cost of everything that involves people on low wages also shoots through the roof. The cost of goods, the cost of services, everything becomes a lot more expensive. The cost of a pint down the pub is mental compared to 10, 20 years ago. The cost of a weekly food shop is eye-watering. So the problem with this aggressive push on minimum wage is that it sounds good. It wins elections, right? It looks good on paper. People are earning more money. You can tweet about it if you Keir Starmer. But in reality, even though those people are apparently making more money, they're not actually better off. 25 years ago, if you had a relatively basic job, you could afford to pay all of your bills. Most people didn't even really pay attention that much to bills. You could pay for your food. Maybe you could afford to go on a cheap holiday to Europe in the summer. Today, that same person is earning a much higher salary, but they can't afford to even pay their bills, let alone go on that holiday. The compression in wages means that the majority of people, even on average wages, can't afford the basics either. And it means there is almost no incentive for people to work harder, to push GDP, to move up the career ladder. If you work hard for 15 years, pull in all the extra hours, go out of your way, forfeit those family things, work weekends, work in the evenings, do all those things that you need to do. Maybe you will become a manager at your company and earn almost the same salary. Raising the minimum wage way, 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 way above the rate of inflation and above the rate at which all the other wages have been increasing is actually quite stupid. It achieves the exact opposite effect of what the proponents and the government doing it think it will do. It doesn't make rich people richer, it actually makes people poorer in real terms. It makes people struggle to make ends meet. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but that is actually what it does. It tanks the economy, because why would you go and hire a young person Why would you give them a chance? Why would you go hire somebody without a lot of experience? Why would you take a chance on a university graduate? If you can just go and hire an experienced person who knows exactly what they're doing, they've been there, done that, collected all the t-shirts, because the difference in salaries now is almost nothing. This is a problem. It's creating a ticking time bomb. Look, here is the unemployment rate by age band. On the right, we have the unemployment rate for over 50s, and it's actually a bit lower than it was in the past at 2.5%. And if you look further up, it's actually never really been this low. It's historically at the lowest level. Then look at the 25 to 49 year band. Unemployment is at 3.2%. Roughly the same it's been, maybe tiny bit higher, but roughly in the same place. Then look at 18 to 24. It's gone up from being around 10% to 13.3% in the latest data. That number is quickly marching up. And then look here, 22% of those 18 to 24-year-olds have been unemployed for over a year. And that number, the proportion that have been unemployed for a long time, is also increasing. We are brewing a massive problem here. It's a crisis, but for some strange reason, I don't hear the UK government or the media talk about it at all. Remember, if you want to get my next completely free newsletter, go and sign up on my website, link below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.